Order. First item on the agenda, you guys have met. Keith, meet Ashley.
Hi.
Ashley is our new secretary. For new business, approve the minutes of the July 11th, 2019 meeting. Everybody got it in advance, so I thought.
Advance of 7 o'clock, yes.
Yeah, okay. Are there any questions, comments, discussion on those minutes? If there isn't, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second now. Should have asked. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. There's a vote. And even though you weren't the next one, we will bring you up because you've been waiting so patiently. So we have before us the, which one is it? The police department has a request before us for a $10,000 request from us to fund the assessment center. And that's all I know is what's on this piece of paper. So why don't you tell us more about what this is?
Police Department Civil Service, so they have normally two options. They have a chance to take a written exam or an assessment. The deadline is kind of passed for the written exam, so the urgency is to have an assessment center. That comes with a cost. The chief is expecting quotes to come in under 10,000, but I think he was looking for that for a cushion. So what happens is, depending on the number of offices that take it, there's a cost associated with that. And he had a breakdown of 5 people take it was $6,400. If 10 people take it, it's $8,400. So he's looking around the $8,400. He anticipates about 10 people probably taking the assessment center
So this is for the patrolman to take this.
to become
for
a sergeant. So it has to be approved by civil service. So there's companies, they put in bids, and then civil service approves them. And then once that approval's been obtained, they'll post it, allow the offices to then sign up for it. So only the offices eligible will be able to sign up and take it
Okay.
From Charlton.
from Charlton.
From Charlton, under our dime. Okay.
It's
So this-
just one thing, sir.
Yeah.
There is an option for the town to charge $250 per officer. If they were to take a written exam, that's what they would pay. So the state also allows them to do that for an assessment, but that's something that the town will have to consider whether they're going to do that. So the cost could be lower, but I think the chief's anticipating that number.
Whose call is that, the chief's, whether they
I believe
pay?
it's the selectmen's
Or the
call.
select, it's the board of select.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak for them. I don't know what they've.
I'm not
wanted.
aware of them waiving it at this point. I believe they waived it for the police chief.
Yeah, I think the concern is that people that weren't seriously interested would sign up for it, but if they had to waive, risk $250, maybe only those that were really truly interested would participate. So I think that's some of the
Gotcha.
issue at hand.
Yeah. But it's more than $250 to take this test.
Yes.
Yes, but by civil service rules, you can only charge $250.
To them.
So they can't divvy up the $8,000 amongst, they don't know how many people are gonna sign up, but civil services come up with a number of $250. So if
They
they were
just wanna
taking
make
a
sure
written
that-
exam, which is offered once a year, they'd pay $250 to do so.
They want to make sure they got skin in the game, basically. Any questions on the request for transfer? There being none, I'll entertain a motion that we approve a $10,000 Finance Committee Reserve Fund, so this is not, this is not an advisory.
No, this is gonna be a
Right, a
FinCom
reserve fund
transfer.
transfer request of $10,000 to the contract obligation. I'm not going to read the number.
I'll make a motion to.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion or questions? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. That's a vote. So we'll sign this when we're done.
Thank you
Thank you
for
very
your
much for your
Thank you.
patience, too. And thanks for having somebody's phone number. Right?
It's a curse, too.
Yeah.
He has mine.
Yeah, but it made giving you the money a little easier to do. Okay. Next item on the agenda we have is a request from the Board of Selectmen Town Administrator for $15,000 put into contract obligations to fund the town administrator search firm once they hire one. And if you want to allude, you've got a $15,000 number.
Right.
But-
Search firms have put in their proposals. I believe they're down to 2, and the board will be interviewing the 2 firms next week, and then we'll determine which one they want. They range between 8,400 and 10,000, change, somewhere in there. But they might need a little contingency in there if other incidentals come up, so that's why they requested the 15.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion. See, this is why I like to have discussions first. If we have a discussion and nobody wants to make a motion, why call for it? But any questions of Donna before I ask for a motion? Yeah, I think we all know. So I'll entertain a motion that we transfer from the reserve fund $15,000 into the contract obligations account for hiring a town administrative search firm. Anybody want to make a motion?
Make the motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. That is a vote. So we'll sign those when we're done. So the next thing I had on the agenda was just a discussion of this whole process, okay? Because at times I'm confused, and I just wanted to go over this with you, Don. So looking at this, this is what we get, okay? This is what, and the first thing is, I'd rather see us not get it at the meeting. It'd be nice if we could get it before the meeting, because I would like to include these things in the agenda when I send it out to everybody, because otherwise, this is the first time you're seeing it, right? So if we could get that, right? But the other questions I have on this are, above our part signature, above where we sign off, it says town administrator's approval or disapproval, and then Board of Selectmen's approval or disapproval. Should it pass through, when we get this document, should those boxes or those lines already be filled?
I asked Robin about that, and she said she signs after you approve, which this form looks totally different than what I'm used to having in the town I came from. And we didn't have a advisory and transfer option either in the town I came from. I'm not sure if it's different here, and I can try to run that by Robin. Typically, what you would have is you'd have the department complete the form and give the details as to why they need the transfer and what it's for, and then they would sign it. That would go to myself and then the town manager or town administrator, and they would say, yes, that's we recommend. And then it would go to the finance committee and they would recommend. So I'm a little confused as to the order, it being different here.
Right, and even just the semantics of it, approval or disapproval, okay? So if somebody makes a request, and I'll use the special election as the, all right, so Karen requests $8,000. If you were to disapprove it, does that mean it never comes to the finance committee? Or is that just your recommendation? Because if it's your recommendation, then to me, those words should say support or don't support, okay?
Right.
So that's where I'm, and also because it's got the Board of Selectmen, right? If the Board of Selectmen were to disapprove, does that stop the process and it never comes to this committee? Because if that's what happens, then we really don't have full control over this reserve fund. Somebody else does before us. So is there a way we can change this or get it quantified a little bit better?
I will ask, I'm not sure. Like I said, looks
Great.
very different than what I'm used to seeing, and different process than what I'm used to seeing. I like your suggestion of you either recommend or not recommend, or support or don't support, as opposed to approve, disapprove, because to me, that's your reserve fund and you're the one that makes that decision.
Right, like I said, it could appear that it could stop before us, and we
Right.
would never get that opportunity. And I just, and going back to that town election, so the selectmen could disapprove it because we think 8,000 is too much. But if it came to us and we said, no, we've done our homework and 8,000 is right, we could still approve it even without them approving. That's the way I believe that it should work, okay?
And I will follow up on that because I'm not sure
Yeah.
why it is the way it is and whether it can be changed. I'd like to see it the way you're saying it, because I think even if I think you should have a finance director in there saying whether they support or don't support and the reason why.
Yeah.
If they're not supporting it, why?
Right.
Same thing with your town administrator, and same thing if the Board of Selectmen should be involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not even sure why they're on that form.
Because they never see it. Since
Exactly.
I've been here, they have never seen this form that I'm aware of.
And again, if we started this form from top to bottom, by the time it gets to us, I would have thought those other lines, if they're supposed to be filled, would be filled. Okay?
So
But maybe it's just the
maybe,
form, maybe this is just somebody's blank form and this, or maybe it's just been left over from the last 10 years, okay?
correct. And maybe it's not out of the realm, considering that we're having a change in administrator,
Mhm.
to do a workshop with the Board of Selectmen and kind of itemize the things that you're questioning, like this form and the order of the form, and do they feel they need to be involved, and that way all the parties are together and can kind of work it out.
Mm. Yeah, because,
I know they have asked to have a meeting to kind of discuss procedures,
Mhm.
and I think it's probably the right time.
All right. If we could, as a start, the next time one of these comes through, get it, if we could have it.
Unfortunately, the amounts I was hoping to get better last night, and then realized they put it on hold to do a
Right.
selection and that they were gonna interview, so that's why it was kind of that in-between, I wasn't sure. The prices only came in, they knew the prices on Monday,
Yep.
but they had to go through and wean it down to 2 people.
See, I thought that they were gonna make their selection last night. and they
That
would
was
have
the
a
intent,
definitive-
and that was on their agenda, and then it got held.
Okay. And what I should have said, as we were doing this, so everybody knows, so before we did any transfers, we had $97,000 in the reserve account. So we just gave the police department 10, so that brings us down to 87. Now, we just gave the Board of Selectmen Town Administrator 15,000, so that brings us down to 72,000. So that's we have to get us from here,
And it's July
and
still.
it's July, from here
Last day of July, but,
until October, whenever, right? And then again, at that point, I would be looking at not only just bring this back to the 120, but maybe if we find that we think we're gonna have some extraordinary expenses before
May,
June 30th,
yeah.
that we up that 120. And of course, that would come from our recommendation on what to do with free cash. And if we feel that we need to make sure we have a big enough kitty to get us through, then that will be our recommendation at that time. The other thing that was on the agenda is, anybody got any other questions on
I do.
reserves?
If I could
Yep.
see one of those forms again, just before,
Well,
make
you
sure
can have
that
them both,
my,
because you gotta sign the bottoms of them.
my question is relevant. Donna, is there, this form, is this revision controlled? Or how does it change? By whose authority allows it to change?
I got that from the town administrator, so that's the one I've been working off of.
So as long as
The
you
only
know
thing
this-
I added was the top right column, spot that said what your balance was, at your board's request.
Right, okay, and the numbers that are underneath that, what does that signify?
That's the account number that your
That
reserve
is
fund
our
is.
account
Yeah.
number, so there's no, this is a little bit general of a question that I
Yeah.
have across many of the town forms that I've seen, is that there's no indicator of what the revision of this form is, and whether someone took it out of a vault and doctored it
Right.
before it got here, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's why, Jason, I believe that we should be able to take that document and
Revise
formulate it the way it works for us, right? Or the way we believe it should work, right? We can meet with the Board of Selectmen and say, this is our suggestion for this form, okay? Because I have some questions on the other ones too, but that actually doesn't come through us, but I still don't think that that form is the best form yet either.
So I agree with you, and the other thing, I would say, when we go through that process, I'd like to add that if there isn't a revision system already that exists in the town, that we, like, there'd be a footer. This version of the form was released on such and so date, so that there's always a referral back
Yeah.
to what the master form was used for that particular one that went
Right.
through the process.
And on the last two, now I didn't do it on these because I didn't have them before tonight, but if you remember on the last two transfers, I wrote a transfer number up at the top so that I could always reference it somewhere else. It was basically just the date plus 01, 02, 03, 04. I would like to, something that you could look at the records and say, yeah, that was transfer number on that date, right? Easy to reference, easy to look at. All right, so that's gonna be part of our agenda for our August
And just as a
21st.
suggestion, and I don't know how people are doing it these days, but in Oxford, we had like a 3-part carbon list.
Mhm.
And so, once you signed, it got separated, the accountant got one, you got one, and the department got one.
Mhm.
So everybody had the signatures.
Right,
Here, there's just that one copy, and then I make photocopies to send to the department, but, you probably should have a copy with your clerk, and
right, and that was gonna be part of my questions. Let me sign this and we'll get to the next item. In talking about the minutes and how we should be handling minutes. So I know now changes are made with Adobe Pro, okay, that you can do graphics, but can you do signatures?
I can if you write underneath in text who signed. So what we can do is if you're gonna be signing minutes, if you make a line, so when I write your minutes, if I can make a line, put everyone's name underneath, and then when you sign the minutes, you just sign above your name, and the text with your name underneath the line would read that there was a
Okay.
signature there.
Okay,
The only thing it won't read is if like the town clerk stamps it and it has her town seal on it or whatever, it won't read that, cause it's not,
does it get stamped?
it will afterwards. So we can't upload it with the stamp on the website, cause it won't be ADA compliant.
Okay,
But your signature will be if you have the text underneath that's got your name.
so in the past, okay, when Sherry would do the minutes, she would send them as a Word document to Jerry and myself. We would go through and we'd make sure the punctuation was right, we'd make sure the spelling right. Every now and then, she might have forgot who was there or did. And we would fix it, send it back to her, and then I had suggested back then turn it into a PDF and send it to the committee. And my reasoning for that was, you can't change a PDF, okay? And that way, there's not some Word documents floating around that somebody could get their hands on and insert or change or whatever, okay? So you're now going to send us,
So
Or
I can
send-
send it to you in a Word document for you to review, and then when you okay it, you can send it back. I can convert it to a PDF, and then when you guys sign at the next meeting, I'll make sure I have a line with all of your names, whoever signs, just sign above your name, and then I can scan that in and convert it with the Adobe Pro,
Yeah.
and it would make it a true PDF instead of an image, and we can upload that to the website. That will be ADA compliant. The only way it wouldn't be is if the town clerk stamped it first, and then I scanned it, cause that stamp isn't readable by the Adobe
yeah,
ADA software. So I will upload it with your signatures and then give her the hard copy with the signatures, and she will stamp it and keep it for her records,
I was gonna say, where does that final piece of paper reside?
to the town clerk's
With the
office.
town clerk's
so
office?
that's the official, is
Yeah.
that what's in the town clerk's office. What's on the website is just kind of a convenience
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
And when you send it, it should go to Joe as well.
Joe as well, yes, I was gonna bring that up, because,
Yes,
yeah,
so I'll send it to
there's two eyes
you
are
and-
better, yeah,
Yeah, I'll send it to you and Joe, and then once you both okay it,
yeah,
I can convert it to a PDF, send it to the committee, and then when you guys
Yeah.
sign it at the next meeting, or I'll let you send it, and when you sign it at the next meeting, then I can scan it and do all that.
Do you want us just to send it to you?
just,
And
yeah,
Joe,
just send
the
me a
PDF.
copy of the PDF,
Okay,
okay?
once it's done.
And then what I will do is when I'm sending out the agenda, I'll always attach the minutes to the agenda. And I will always try and get the agenda out at least a week in advance of, at least 5 or 6 days.
Do you want it to you and Joe when it's a PDF, or just you, the second time when it comes back?
No, both, just to make sure that Joe's corrections or suggestions got incorporated too.
Okay.
And then, after we receive it, if we have further adjustments,
You'll bring it up at this meeting and we'll approve the minutes with your adjustments. I'd rather, if you had a question, I'd rather you bring it up at a meeting instead of sending me an email saying, hey, that was not $8,992, that was $8,997. I would have to then send to the whole committee to make sure, so if you bring it up at a meeting, we can approve amended minutes.
all right, so then, but how's the practical process? We won't have a correct version to sign unless we're just gonna document those changes in the next set of minutes, which other committees I've not
Good point,
handled it.
okay,
So do we want,
good point, no, I didn't think of that, because,
I mean, that's why I brought my laptop tonight, in case I had to adjust this.
yeah,
We have redlined and signed, and I understand that could cause an issue when it gets over to the PDF format. So one of my questions is, do you have the ability to do that? If the signed copy included a red line where we struck something out, changed a value on it, and that's the copy that we signed here.
that's not gonna be searchable.
It's not-
And so.
Whatever you did in red is not gonna be searchable. So, yeah, to John's point, that, you're right, we can't really amend minutes at a meeting under this format. Because you would have to change the minutes, we'd all have left,
Right.
right?
We'd
And
have to wait another
and have to
meeting
wait till the next
sign-
meeting
to sign.
to be able to sign those.
So the few times in my memory that this sort of thing has come up,
Mhm.
the question against the minutes has been brought up by one individual to the chair,
Mhm.
so that we're not spreading the email across everyone.
Mhm.
And that time Sherry would show up with 2 sets of minutes
Okay.
in print. Okay, so she had an electronic copy of, what was originally went out, what if the grievance, what would rectify the grievance, and then the discussion could happen, we could sign the right copy, and she had the right electronic copy.
Trying not to create too much work.
I
I can imagine.
It does
Sherry-
not sound elegant, but that is what she was able to manage previous to, and I don't agree that that's perfect. But before we have to reinvent the wheel, that is a potential solution.
Yeah,
The
So-
process
so-
thing being that someone would bring the grievance to the chairs. Or issues, grievance is probably the wrong word, but.
What do you think our chances are of getting a wireless printer in here so that we could make the changes?
so it
to the
actually
printing
wouldn't be that hard though, John, if we
I know
sent out the
this printer
PDFs
last time in
along with
meeting
the
room?
agenda, and you had an issue,
Mm.
and sent me an email and said, hey, so-and-so,
This won't
if you sent it, you know what, you would send it to the group, you would send it to the committee, and let others comment
But
too.
if we had a
And if
wireless printer in here,
Right.
we
Well, I
all
was trying to-
agreed that there
Just
was an
reprint.
issue, we could let Ashley know ahead of the meeting, because we would have all agreed by email. Now, is that
Did
legal?
Well, no,
That's-
that's what I was trying, because in the past, when I've had issues, I would send an email to Jerry and Sherry.
Yeah.
And then,
And that's when she would do her
and she
magic.
would do the 2 versions of
Yeah.
it.
If you think
Because
that that's,
I was avoiding emailing
okay.
everyone.
so the other
Well,
Do you want to
suggestion,
try, Ashley, do you want to try that? Okay.
Yeah, or Donna suggested we could try to get a wireless printer in here.
and
that I can
then
print to from a laptop, and I can
we
just print.
make the
new version
correction
sign
and
it.
just reprint it.
So we'd have something to sign,
Right, so I would make the
Okay.
correction here and then print it.
yeah,
If we had a printer here, then you guys would just sign that. Cause I would already have the PDF
Yeah.
version in Word that I can edit here and just print it. Cause it's not gonna
Yeah.
matter if it's PDF or Word, once it's here, if there's a change made, 'cause I can just print it.
Now,
and then
this
sign
is
it.
really,
But the PDF copy would go out to the committee.
Could we have the signature page as its own page?
I could do that too.
So that we could amend
minutes
them,
could
we
just-
could amend the minutes at the meeting, right? Approve them, sign the signature page, and attach it to,
How do you know?
the only thing we don't do there is
We don't know if
Right,
what
but
we've
no.
signed to approve is
Is
what
it
it's being
right?
attached to.
Yeah, I don't mind if you
Exactly.
have
Yeah.
changes, I can just.
Good
I mean,
point,
that's-
good point, John.
Copies. Cause I'm really just editing a couple, I would be editing maybe a couple lines or inserting something, I
Yeah.
could just bring the 2 copies like Sherry did.
All right, let's try that. We'll try it and see if it works.
So what are we doing? We're sending, are we gonna send the Word document?
You're gonna send a Word doc to Joe and I.
Yep,
We'll do our first go-through, right?
Yep.
We'll send it back to Ashley. And then, once I get it back as a PDF, I attach it to the agenda, send it to everybody. If somebody has an issue, John has an issue and says, hey, this is, I could forward that back to Ashley and say, you know what, John's got a good point here, okay? Make up a set of minutes that say that also, and then when we come to the meeting, we can look, here's the one that we've done now. Here's the timing thing. You might not see that amended one until we get to the meeting, depending on the timeline, okay?
right.
I mean, if I got the
So
agenda
the
and the
only
minutes
thing
out
that
2
you
weeks
have to
in
be,
advance,
be careful of is when that goes out to you with the agenda and the minutes and PDF, and you have a question on, or you want something changed, don't hit reply all, just reply
Mhm.
to Hank, and then
right.
you're not violating anything.
So if this happened a week and a half before the meeting started, we're easy, right? If it happens the day before the meeting, we're putting Ashley into the gun here to make sure she has the right set of
Mhm.
documents. So let's try that
Yeah.
procedure, that policy, and see how it works. And if it doesn't, we'll come up with another one, all right? I'm just glad that we all have a policy and procedure we all understand, and let's make it work. And then I had any items we didn't know about. I don't have anything else on the agenda. Has anybody got anything new they wanna bring up?
I wanna make a comment that that process should go into these minutes,
Yes.
so that those not in attendance can understand and comment on that as well. Thank you.
I figured Jason, that was gonna go, without saying, and I wanted to see how good Ashley was at keeping notes, okay? Let's see how good she was at following,
Test.
right, our
Now we
policy.
know how Hank works. Secret tests.
Well, some of the things, just, do you want us to add a blip on the website? Or point to the accountant's website, what we were talking about
Right.
when I first walked
You
in?
know, as a first, and we kind of talked about this before, have you been to the finance committee's page, right? And in that center, there's who we are and what we do and whatever, and I was wondering if we could add things to the bottom of that, links. And my first thought was, our goals should be on that page. And if we're all in agreement that our goals should be on that page, let's try that as our first, let's see how it looks on the page and how it works. That's something that's just finance committee. So that should be on our page, right? So I will get that to you in a Word doc.
Yeah, then the policies, do you want on our?
Let's take it one step at a time.
Okay.
Let's-
Okay.
all right, we'll work on, we won't overburden you, and maybe, the next meeting we'll say, all right, which next, come with a suggestion, what's our next policy? In fact, I'll make that part of the agenda.
Just, do you want to see the full text or a link to a document with the goals? Because
'cause
we don't want to put too much that people have
On
to
the
scroll
page
through
itself, no,
itself.
you're right, John, it
And
should
then
be
we're
a
going to be
link.
changing it
Right.
annually.
And
So
it
what
can
will
say-
happen, so what Civic Plus's recommendation is to only have to scroll on your cell phone like 2 or 3 times. Otherwise, you should make a subpage or put document links. So if I do a document link, it will tell you that there's like FinCom documents, and you can click on it, whatever the description is. So if it says 2000 or FY20 FinCom goals,
Goals.
you click on that and it will open in a Word document.
Right,
Or a
that's,
PDF version.
right,
and
that's
it
the
will
link
give
that
it
you're
the
talking
links,
about.
yeah.
Right.
Do you,
Or if you
do you
have-
want us to say FY20 or just goals?
Just
FinCom goals.
Finance Committee goals?
I don't think it's associated.
Because we didn't
Oh, I
really,
thought we're,
no, we were gonna
It was like
review it
annually.
annually, right, which is what we'll do at the October meeting. But are we calling them our goals for 2021 or 2020, or are they just
I
our
took them as
goals?
a first-year goal. I mean,
Wanna say
when we
for-
review them, they'll either stay the same or we're going, I'm
Yeah.
guessing they're gonna change, so.
Yeah.
So you could just call it goals and then have that revision at the bottom, just keeping when it's been revised.
And I can link, I
You're
can,
listening, Jason.
I can.
I know
replace
exactly
that
what you're talking about, because I had it on, I have a thing for the policies, so I can keep track of when they get revised.
Mhm.
And I know what you're saying, because I've had forms that have that on the bottom as well, and it's not on this.
Well, what we'll do is when I send it over to Ashley, I'll put adopted, and I forget what exact meeting, but adopted on this meeting, okay? Then when you hit the link, you'll see it, you'll know that, and if we change them, then we'll adopt it on, and that's how we'll keep revising our goals, right? Rather than, and that way on the page, it just says Finance Committee goals.
Yep, and then I can, when you send me the updated, Word doc, I can just replace that document and
Replace the
automatically
document
save.
without going to the page.
Correct.
Good. What else we got?
Did you want to assign transfer numbers to those two, just to keep things consistent?
Yes, yes, and I don't wanna write on your nice
You can write
piece
on
of
it.
paper,
Write
okay?
right on
So, we're gonna call, the one from,
The
the police
10,000
sergeant we did first,
is
so we'll
the
call that
10,000.
1907-3101, and the other one is 1907-3102. So if you're ever wondering when did we do a transfer, you'll always know the date is first, and then the order that we approved them in. And we got four signatures, so those are good. What else?
On this, sort of related to minutes, I'll ask another question. Does the town have any, electronic file directory to be able for us to have any access to any of this? Which might, I'm not gonna blow your mind with getting rid of email, but I can tell you that in my company, there is no such thing as interoffice email. Forget, but at least one step back from that, to not sneaker net documents, like these PDFs back and forth.
You
to
you
hang.
had a Dropbox for a while.
Right,
We still-
so that is not, that's not a town resource, so that's sort of focus. My question is, similar to how we've been using Dropbox, which could have additional functionality than what we're doing, like, instead of emailing attachments, we could link it there, and who has access to change that can be restricted there. So you don't have to convert every little thing into a PDF because it's restricted, it's gated, you know, even at a Word doc at that level. But does the town have any resource for that?
I'm gonna say, not that I'm aware of. We have a lot of difficulty even sharing documents between my finance departments. It's more the outside consultant that doesn't want to set up drives that maybe assessor, accounting, and treasure collector all have access to, that we can work, things that we're working jointly on, that we can have just one copy. I finally did get him to give me one that I shared with Robin for the budget, because I was losing my mind, like which version's the most recent, if I'm making so many sets of this, and then I gotta send it to Robin, and then it's like, you don't know which one's the most recent, because she's touched it, I've touched it. Can we just have one document we're touching?
So he doesn't want to partition drives and give you guys just the T drive, the V drive, or?
Right, we're very limited on when we want to share across departments. Now, we did get one, I don't know if you heard me before talking about a sewer master file. It's a massive Excel file that was created by an outside company for us to track the sewer betterments and privilege fees. But I want to look at it, the assessor needs to edit to it, the treasurer collector needs to post the payments with a conversion from Vadar over into it, and then obviously wanted the sewer department to have access, and Robin wanted access. Like, this is massive, there's no way we're making multiple copies of this, and then who's updated what and writing over what? It needs to be one document that we're all looking at. And we did finally get that. It took us almost a year, but we finally got it so that we have a shared directory that it sits in. I don't know why there's so much resistance to it.
Do you use the Dropbox at all, or have you gone into the Dropbox?
I view the
keep it up
Drop-
as best I can, but I didn't know whether it was actually useful to anybody.
Not real time, but I view the Dropbox almost every time I get the update notification.
Okay. To see what's been added to, okay. To see a lot of that information is what I like to see go on our website, like the goals, the policies, I read that we should be, we're responsible for reporting to the town on financial matters. Well, we may study something and come up with our own report, and that should be posted on the website, but it could also be in our Dropbox as we're working on it. That's what you're looking at. I could say, hey, here's that spreadsheet we were all talking about, take a look at it, and then once we're finished, we move it over to the website. But it gives us that ability to all work on the same thing at the same time. Okay. That's too bad the town won't petition, but that's,
I'll make a quick soapbox stand, and I apologize that that's it, but, doing it to let you know that I'm advocating any kind of efficiency that you guys can come up with, because as far as I'm concerned, any document that should be shared should be in a shared directory, and revisioning and back versioning should be automated.
I'm with you.
Nobody should be wasting their time retyping Rev D, Rev E in a footer to be able to track these things, or go through their emails to try to figure out which one is the newest version. That's just 19th century to me.
I'm with you. I told you, it was like walking through Narnia when I came here. It's like, whoa.
all right, maybe we should put that in a recommendation to somebody. I don't know who we make it to.
We've discussed the, the concerns with the staffing increases, in recent years. This is potentially an efficiency. I don't work here, I can't lay any comment as to how much inefficiency comes or doesn't come
I
from that
can
source.
tell you,
but-
in the 2 years I've been here, I think they've come a long way with technology, but it's not been easy. It's a struggle to get the technology you need. To know that for Adobe Writer, that there was 3 of us in finance department pleading for it because our software links with it and we can't do the stuff we need to do because we don't have Adobe Writer. And it took a year to get it. And then we find out that now we're changing to this new website and it's not capable of handling, until we find out when we talk to the website people that, oh, well, if you got Adobe Pro, it would be fine. There's 4 licenses for everybody that works here.
That's it?
So only 4 people have it. And to me, this is stuff that you need to do your job every day.
I have my own license that I'm using.
Oh, okay.
It's, yeah. We've come a long way. We've had to get people a little bit more comfortable with using Excel and Word and mail merge, and
Mhm.
so, yeah, where you're at is up here, and where the technology they've had available is down here, and we're trying to climb up something that's moving very fast.
Okay. our next scheduled meeting is August 21st, 20 days from today, unless, Donna, you come up with some other emergency that
I
brings us
hope not.
back together. The one.
I'm 3 for 3 this week, so we don't have to
the
meet.
One document I would ask that you get for us in time for that meeting would be the updated 5-year capital plan.
I will
Because I know
try.
that's changed.
Yep.
Is anybody else looking for any other information that we may want for that meeting? All right, there being nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It's a vote. And by the way, Ashley, if I don't say aye, I'm